But as you see on this side, it works just fine. If I face this way, I'm not hitting. On this side it's hitting, so there we go. There's a 2D damage system. Okay, so I wanted to do just a quick one on the 2D for combat and damage real quick. Also thought I would have a big thank you to my Patreons that are putting food on my table, put it that way. Anyways, I'm gonna do another video today. I think there was a Patreon request for some saving stuff with easy save. But anyways, before we get into that, I just wanted to do damage. So I like to do damage with rays. Personally, I find them more dependable than triggers and stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to put an FSM on the player. Actually, you know what? I guess it'll be the second thing I'll do, is I'm going to add a sprite to be our little fake enemy here for a minute until we make an enemy. And I want to have, I'm going to put the enemies on a layer. I'm going to use the layer of my combat AI. Again, you can literally add any layer as long as you're kind of using the same style thing. I'm going to tag them in case I need it later on. I don't think I'll be using the tag right now, but we're going to have there. So we have an enemy. He doesn't have a collider, so I should probably add a collider. He's on a layer and he has a tag. And that's all he's really going to have at this moment in time. I mean, well, no. To make sure we can test things, like on our player uses the event damage, and then we're going to maintain that same structure. And I'm going to use the same style of retrieving damage. Right, so we have something like that. And then we would just do an int subtract. So we're going to need a health variable, and we need to subtract our damage from the health. Something like that. But now I'll deal more with the AI at a later date. So the thing I want is we have a damage system. And like I said, I like these rays. So the first thing I want to do is just measure the rays. So I'm going to use raycast 2D. And we're just going to, I'm going to put a layer mask on it to hit our AI layer. And I'm going to put the debug on it. And that's all I'm going to do until I figure out how big I want this ray. So we have, unless the ray is not showing up. Oh, there it is. It's way down there. So obviously we have a point there where we're not going to want. So I'm going to need to put it roughly at 0.85, 0.9. I think 0.9 will be good. But anyways, now it's hitting this capsule. We don't want that because that's not a measurement of distance for us right now. As you see, if I move the capsule, we really don't need an attack range that far, right? So a distance of 1. And if I attack, Is that far enough to reach the end of the blade? No, not really. So maybe 1.5. That's probably a little closer, right? So the other thing is a raycast is pretty one point. So I also want to actually alter him a bit on the angles. For example, a 0.25 and a negative 0.25. And that gives me almost a bit more of a cone. Alright, so 1.5 distance, 0.9 from the position. And yeah, let's set that up. There we go. So the other thing is this direction is we can't raycast just in one direction because we could be facing either direction. So we need to know what direction we're facing. So I'm just going to make a new state here. And actually we're gonna get an event called attack. Or you know what? No. Let's not use that. Let's use it called send damage. So if we get this event from something, we need to send damage. So the first thing we want to do is we need to find out what way we're facing. And I'm simply going to do that with the sprite flip. And if I look right now, he's facing right and it's false. So that's on the X. Alright, so we're going to get our facing pool. And I want to convert it into a float. So if this bool let's call it a direction is false, we want to go right. If it's true, we want to go left. So I'm going to use 1 to negative 1. Now I can set a direction, like an actual vector direction. So let's say attack straight, and we want to use the direction on the X. Now with that said, we also want to do this 2 more times because we want to make a bit of a cone for accuracy. So we need 2 more vector variables, attack up and attack down. Now the only difference is on the up we're going to also do a 0.25, and on the down we're going to do a negative 0.25, and then we can just raycast. Right, so we're going to raycast. Oh whoops, I did a vector 3. We don't want vector 3s, we want vector 2s. We're dealing with 2D. Vector 2, X, Y. But, I mean, exact same concept, though. I'm just going to convert these guys here to a vector 2. There we go. So, the attack straight on the X, we'll use direction. And on the attack down, we'll use the direction and negative 0.25. And on the attack up, we'll use the direction and 0.25. So now I can just use these. So we can attack straight, but we also need to do our ray from there. The distance, we hit something, add that, the object we hit, and we want to make sure we're using our layer mask. There we go. And then I am going to copy that. Only this time I want the attack down, or the other one, don't matter. And we want the attack up. So there is 3 different rays. They're going to share the same variable. And then the other thing is I want a next frame. So more or less, if we don't hit something, we have missed. So essentially we're going to fire 3 rays on a cone. If one of those rays hit, we're going to go out this guy. If this logic gets past all 3 of those rays, we're going to end up going out this guy, where we can play various sound effects. So the other thing we should probably do on those rays is store the hit point. There we go. So if we've hit something, we can do and you can do your damage system all sorts of different ways. But let's make a damage integer. So load up a event, which is going to be a type integer. We add our damage, and we'll fire it off to whatever the hell we hit. And we know what we hit. It's going to have a health FSM, and it's going to use the event damage. The other thing we could do is create, or if using pooling, which would be a better choice, I don't think I have pooling actions in here right now, is I am going to bring in a blood effect. This is actually a 3D effect, but it'll still work. And we want to use the hit point. And then I might as well at least try to be a little clean and destroy it after some time. Say after like 2 seconds. There we go. We could also add sound effects and various other things. So that's based on hitting. So how do we send that event to even begin with? And a few different ways to do that. I am actually going to use it based on our attacking animation. So if I go to the animation window and now I scrub over, we only have a few frames to deal with, but say right there, hit that button and send event. Where is it? There it is. And we called it send damage. And we also need to go do the same thing on attack 2. And on attack 3. Alright, so that should be pretty much all it takes to have a dependable attack system, right? And if I bring up our little enemy AI here and I attack, we're firing it this way. Actually, let's bring up our hero first. right? So as you see, as we go through the animations, it's playing, and we have that miss event. And if I turn this way, we now have the hit event, because one of the rays is hitting. And those rays will go in priority. So if you want the priority to be the middle one, then make sure to put it first out of these three, right? There, now we have a hit that is dependable. Okay, and if we look into the capsule, we're getting damage. That was 13. Our health is at negative 177. We're dead as hell. But there, now we have a decent, very quick, very simple, effective damage system, right? And I can swing here; it doesn't do anything. And if you want, you can do special things there when you're hitting walls or whatever the case is, or do nothing. But as you see on this side, it works just fine. If I face this way, I'm not hitting. On this side, it's hitting. So there we go. There's a 2D damage system.